come over here to streaming. It looks like it's connecting. Yeah, we're up.
Scott from FlyWire is live.
Live, man. We are live. Oh, did you get an email?
Yeah, it's because I'm subscribed to your channel and I clicked the bell,
Yeah.
so I just got a notification on my phone.
Cool. Cool.
So I was trying to figure out forever what the bell actually does, and the bell seems to be what makes the notification come through on the phone in real time.
Yeah, I've looked at the statistics, and there's not a lot of people that use notifications.
No, there aren't. And I look at my videos, and only 15% of my views come from the subscribed audience. 85% are people who watch them and never subscribe. So,
Yeah.
well, I don't know.
So it says we have 7. I don't know. I can't understand this. We've got 4.
I see Arthur Sneeden is in the chat. I recognize that one.
Oh, yeah.
It says 6. I've got it pulled up on my phone here. I can see the chat.
Okay. Alrighty then. Yeah, we're just a little bit early.
We're early, so you guys who are going to watch the live stream, grab yourself a drink. Happy Friday.
This is a adult time.
Oh, FlyWire. Scott Perdue's in the chat.
Yeah, baby. Yeah. It's the 21st century, man.
Yeah.
At least my Gregorian calendar said something like that.
Jack Brain says hello. I thought it said Brian. That was going to be funny. My son's name is Jack Brian.
Hello,
Jack.
Is Brian your middle name or your first name?
Brian's my first name, and so my middle name is my dad's first name, and so my first name is my son's middle name, and I don't know, maybe we'll continue it. Who knows? It's his choice.
Yeah.
He'll feel obligated to.
Cleared cold cat pee here in Arizona. Clear.
I'm not sure what that means.
I don't either. I'm a little confused by that.
Let's see, Monty. Echo Party. I recognize that guy.
Yeah.
So some people are coming over here. That's good. Yeah, I put on my community tab. I put a thing and tagged you in it. So hopefully we'll get some. Jason
Cool.
Coward. Hello from South Georgia.
Yeah.
I like being on someone else's live stream because when I'm doing it, I never get to read the comments. Oh, he's drinking Coors Light. Yes, that's the cat pee reference.
Oh, I see. Coors Light cat pee. Okay. Coors used to be a thing, when they only had it basically distributed in Colorado.
Yeah.
My dad.
That's the very first beer I ever had.
Yeah, my dad was into it, and his sister lived in Denver and had a cabin in the mountains. So he'd go up there every summer, and he'd bring back cases of Coors.
Oh God, now that I'm a snob when it comes to this stuff. I like the craft beers with lots of hops and stuff.
So Brazil.
Look at that. Echo Party says we're here from Brazil.
Just for
outstanding.
For Brian, not for me. Cool. We're still counting down a couple of minutes. So you guys are kind of instead of the B-roll after, you're in the bloopers ahead of the game.
Yeah, this is the green room discussion or something.
Yeah,
Sam
that's
Armstrong,
right.
how are you? Oh, Sean Armstrong. Sorry, I mispronounced that.
That's all right. Do you
This is way more
want to
fun.
borrow my glasses?
I recently got glasses. It's been a couple years, but I had 20/20 vision until I turned 40, and my wife kept saying, "You're going to turn 40, and the eyes are going to go." And I was like, and then it was like overnight, and suddenly I started getting headaches, and she's like, "You need to get your eyes checked," and I was like, "No, it's not that." And I went to the optometrist thinking my vision was fine, and they put glasses on me, and that's when I realized my vision was not fine.
Not fine.
Suddenly everything
yeah.
went.
Hey, Parr says he's here for me. Well, I have a similar story. I had 2010 and 2015, and when I hit 43, I thought, hey, I'm going to be good. But it went downhill so fast. I find it a betrayal. It is a betrayal.
I never wear mine. I see a par for the course is here just for you, Scott.
I saw that.
Yard time. What up, guys? Oh, this is so much more fun than putting on the live stream.
Well, cool.
I can't chat back. I can read.
For y'all that are on already, we're just waiting for the official start time, which is in a couple of minutes. We just want to make sure everything worked because I'm technologically challenged here in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm. I'm becoming technologically challenged.
If this lasts much longer. So here's the guys who set up the ACCAs. They sponsored the ACCAs at Sturman Field last month. For
Nicest guys you'd ever want to meet.
Supers, yeah. Clemens Insurance. And Dan Grider, he paid me to give this shout out. He did.
So I was going to give a shout out. A Dutchy Girl is here. So Dutchy Girl, if I understand it, is 2 o'clock in the morning your time.
Oh my gosh.
That is one dedicated YouTube subscriber. She'll tell us what time it is. She has a YouTube channel too. I think she does aerobatics.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, the cool thing is the bonanza that you did aerobatics in at at Sturman Field actually was made in Wichita, but then it went to Holland. It taught KLM students how to fly.
Really?
That was its first 9 years or something like that of life. That's where it was. So, yes, it is. So it is 2 in the morning there. Do you have world time? You pull out your iPhone? Is that what you did?
No, I don't.
Do quick math.
No, I just know because I did a live stream with my friend Ryan from Super Aero, and I did it on a Saturday night, I believe, at 8:30 p.m. And so she said it's 3:30 my time, so I'll try to be there. And she was there, and I was like, man, I feel like next live stream, Dutchy Girl, next live stream I do, it's going to be at noon, so that so whatever time your time, I'm going to do that for you.
Friend the Legend 735. I've never seen that. Ninja, never seen that. But here we are. It's 7 o'clock, and FlyWire is live with Brian Turner. Where is he? He's in that window there, and he's from just Plain Silly. And
that's right. Thank you for having me.
You bet. I think it's going to be fun. We're actually going to talk about instrument flying today, instrument training in particular. And Brian's on that path right now.
I brought my instrument panel with me, so
awesome.
You can explain to me how this works.
Okay, and that's the FMS. Well, just as long as we're going to do that, I want to prepare for in case there might be some instruction. That happens. Some instruction that happens today.
Oh, I could use that kind of hood for my IFR check ride. That'd be perfect.
It would be. Yeah.
I have to not be able to see out the window.
Yeah.
I'm going to get one of those. Examiners don't tend to like sense of humor.
Yeah, they don't. Those guys don't have senses of humor, or whatever.
I did a video once where I sumped the tanks out of my airplane, and then I drank the fuel. And the whole idea was I was taking my private check ride, and I was like, I bet the examiner will find this funny. And my instructor said, absolutely not. You cannot do that. Like, said, don't do it. And so I was like, okay, I'll make a video.
I think I saw that video, or was it one where you're changing oil or something?
I've drank a lot of fluids out of my airplane.
Yeah, I was wondering, was that really oil, or was it like Hershey's syrup?
It was Hershey's syrup. That was an awkward one to film because I have an open T hanger, and so there's cars that drive by. Yeah. And I remember and I should probably put up the outtakes from that video. There's just me laying on the ground just debating with myself, like, Brian, are you really going to do this? Like, what got us to this point in life? And there's cars driving by or whatever, and I'm up at the cowling, and I've got this Hershey's syrup with the top off and my thumb covered the hole, and then right on the face. And I was like, here we are. And then it's funny. I've had this conversation with a few people. I like to kind of write really kind of what I consider smart jokes, but people love to see trips, falls, oil on the face, that kind of stuff. And so I've got one in the pipelines where I'm going to explain how one uses a flight extender for when you got to relieve yourself. And I'm sure at some point it'll explode mid-flight, and then it'll have some fluid in it.
Ooh. Hey, I've actually got a real story about that.
I got time.
Okay. Hey, how about y'all out there? So anyway, I was flying my V-35B, my Bonanza, back from California to Texas, and the winds were great, so I can make it nonstop, and everything's going great except I really had to pee when I passed El Paso. And I go, oh man, I gotta hold it. Well, and I got to Guadalupe Peak, which happens to be the highest mountain in Texas, right? And the way it works is there's a ridge line and then the mountain at the end of it. So I flew by the mountain this way, and it got to be so bad that I had to pee, so I started. And then there's that ridge lift thing, where wham! I got thrown up, and my head hits the top of the cabin, and everything is all over me. I mean, it's just it was a mess. It was a mess. So maybe you can simulate that in your video.
It's in the queue of. I have a whiteboard with all my ideas to do on it, and I've written probably 25% of that episode, but it's going to happen.
Good. So anyway, we want to talk about instruments. We're going to talk about something serious now. Okay.
Sure.
It's instrument training. And have you been flying for how long?
I've been a pilot since 2013. That's when I passed my check ride. I spent about a year getting my pilot's license, not because I'm unintelligent, but because I had an instructor who signed me off to go fly to a lot of airports, and I thought, well, this is what I want to do. So I just spent a year flying around by myself for fun. And then finally I said, I should probably go take the check ride and get the license. So 2013 is when it became official.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so 2013, you've been flying around. You've flown the nefarious Cirrus and the Grumman, and now you're thinking about doing the instrument rating, and you're working on that in the Cirrus. So I thought it'd be really good to actually talk about that. And so with that amount of time you've been flying, so you've gotten into this groove of VFR, kind of going where you want, and talking to people when you really want to, and now you're not, instrument flying. So tell us how that's going. Tell us what. It's
the most humbling thing I've ever done in my life. I'm struggling more than I ever would have thought I would have struggled. I've taken the test twice because I took it and I was going to get the rating, and then it's one of those things, and part of it's motivation, right? I always wanted to be a pilot. Being a pilot sounds like a lot of fun. There's no little kid in my head just dreaming of doing approaches in the clouds. It's not as satisfying a goal. It's more of, Brian, you need to do this. And so there's no, reward, no dopamine rush coming from thinking about flying instruments. I'm sure when you break out at 200 feet, you get that, but there's a lot less just internal motivation. Right now, my motivation is I will not take that test a third time. So I am going to get the rating. I'm far enough now. Like I said, I've gone down this path. I dipped my toe in the water once. I got a quarter way through it the second time I did it, and now I'm absolutely going to finish it. And I'm committed, but I'm finding it to be an extraordinary challenge. And a lot of it is when you're VFR and your VFR flight following, they ask you, what altitude do you want? What heading are you going to be on? And they hand you off to the next guy when it's time. When it's instruments, they're telling you what to do repeatedly, constantly, and suddenly if they tell you something, it's like, well, now I got to switch to the localizer, and I have actions I have to perform, and am I where I'm supposed to be? Also, I'm not looking at a map anymore, so I don't really know where I am. I'm looking at an approach plate, so it's almost like learning to fly all over again, and I'm finding it extremely challenging. So I'm going to do it, but it is, like I said, it is incredibly humbling to be what I consider to be a proficient pilot. I fly very frequently. I fly multiple different airplanes, and suddenly be like, now I feel like the worst pilot ever. Every time I land, and I'm telling my instructor, I know there's dumber people than me with this rating, but there can't be that many because I am really, really struggling. So it's a lot for me.
And it's the trying to juggle all the different things, the the communications with ATC and the planning and the flow of the whole instrument thing is what's challenging you right now?
It's right now the biggest struggle I'm having is, and I got this book, which I've heard is a really good book, Radio Mastery. You kind of get into this muscle memory. Yeah, it's actually, and there's not as many pictures as one would have hoped when he bought it. But when you're flying, a lot of things kind of become muscle memory. And specifically, like, I know what things I'm going to hear when I'm on flight following or when I'm talking to the tower. Now I'm hearing a whole set of new things, and there's new actions that go along with it. And so I'm with my instructor, and they say, "Oh, you're cleared for the ILS, 13 whatever airport." It's like, okay, I'm cleared for the ILS, but what does that mean? I'm not cleared to land. I don't know if he's going to continue vectoring me or if I'm now on my own to try to intercept the thing. And what do I do if I don't intercept it? So the big problem is just being behind the aircraft. When I'm VFR, I make sure I'm in front of the aircraft, and here it's like, okay, he's going to say something that's new to me, and there's some new action I have to do, and I'm not sure. And so it's just lack of understanding and lack of practice. But it's I think if I can get the IFR radio to where, like, my VFR radio usage is kind of muscle memory, if I can get the IFR then I can spend more time focused on flying the plane, not going, what did he say? How am I supposed to respond? And getting confused in that moment. So, but again, I'm also not done yet.
Yeah. Well, even when you do get the instrument rating, it's really more like when you first got your private, it's more of a ticket to learn and go and experience stuff. Doesn't mean you're automatically going to be really great at that. When I was an Air Force guy. That's where I did my instrument training, so I didn't have a lot of time. You just had to fit inside the syllabus. But when we graduated, well, they didn't let us fly to minimums. Then now we're full-fledged pilots and all that, right? And we had to take the check ride to minimums and all that. But now when we're out in the world, and then what they did is they created weather categories. So the first category is VFR, it's 1503. And then they step you down. I can't remember what they were. It's like 1,000, and then 800 or 700 or something like that. And then at over a certain level of experience, then they finally let you fly down to minimums. And then, so you're really governed by your weather category. And the reason I mention that is I think it's probably a good idea to do that too, because there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong in the clouds. So
well, and that's the thing is, like, I don't have any lofty goals of spending hours in IMC. I really, and I once convinced a bunch of people on Reddit that I'd gotten a sport instrument rating, which was just for pop-up clearances. That's all I want in life, is just when there's a layer, just to be able to get above it. I don't think, and we'll see after I get the rating. Right now, I couldn't imagine myself ever spending any significant amount of time in IMC or doing these low approaches. I really just want to not get stranded somewhere because there's a layer at 800 feet if I have to get above it. So we'll see what happens, but I think that will probably be the extent of my instrument usage, is just going, well, there's a layer, I can get on top of it and go.
No, that's valid. It's just maintaining currency, so then you can do that with confidence and flying it. Says here, Jason is a 100-hour private, and he's thinking about starting his instruments. Am I rushing it? Should I wait or get more time? Go ahead and do it. I don't know. I think if you want to do it, you don't have to wait. If you want to wait, that's fine too. So you waited. What do you think Jason Coward ought to do? Brian?
Honestly, okay, I will say do it, because I wish I'd already done it. I'm 800 or 900 hours in, and I will say, okay. So I told you that I spent about 100 hours flying around before I got my pilot's license. So I was flying around all by myself, having a great old time, and then I went to schedule my check ride, and my instructor said, absolutely not, you suck. He said, you've taught yourself so many bad habits by flying around VFR. You're not practicing what you need to practice. You're not using your rudder enough. And he gave me all this critique and said, you need to tell the examiner we got to reschedule this. It hurt my pride, and I probably was a good thing. I would say the reason I'm probably struggling with this IFR is because I've been flying around VFR for 7 years, and I've got habits so ingrained in me that it's like, and this is a silly example, it'd be like, I'm a PC guy. I've been working on PCs for 20 years. I got a Mac, and I returned it because I was like, I can't unlearn these habits. So if it were me, I would have been better off going from the private pilot to the instrument, so I didn't have 7 years of doing things a certain way. And now I'm going, why are they saying these different things? Why am I not allowed to go where I want to go? So I think it would probably be better. I know it would have been for me to just go jump right into it. Fly around for a while, or take your family on some flights, get some hamburgers, go to Oshkosh, do that. But the 7-year gap is probably not helping me.
I would tend to agree. I think that the proficiency and the student mindset you're in the learning mindset instead of now I have a bunch of habits to unlearn. I think that probably pays for a lot. One nickel I have to throw on the grass here is that whenever you do something like this, you really should do it at least 3 times a week. I know that's a burden, especially if you have a real life. But
oh yeah,
but it's the thing.
A YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's right. How do you fit all this into work, being a father, and doing YouTube as well? That's a lot of balls to juggle. But
give up the sleep.
Yeah, sleep. Who needs that? So it's that I don't have to relearn. So if you don't do it with fair regularity, then you end up relearning in a lesson what you learned before because you had a big enough break.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with proficiency. So here's Sean Sullivan's talking about recommending using the sim for training. And live controllers free in the comfort of your home. He used it a lot during his IFR training, and is that a good idea? Have you done that?
I have not. It's funny because I'm an IT guy, but I got on there and played around with it for a little bit, and I was just like, I don't have time to learn how this thing works. I have used, and I see Flyer 16612 says. He's asking about Flight Sim. I've used Flight Simulator. I use FSX, the old one, and it's got some nice instrument lessons, but I will go on record as saying I think it's harder to fly a simulator than it is to fly an actual airplane. Rod Machado is the guy like guiding the Flight Sim stuff, and he's not as forgiving as I needed him to be because I'm using a joystick instead of a yoke, and I don't have rudder pedals, and I'm trying to, and he keeps canceling the flight because I'm doing so poorly. I'm not making this up. It's funny, but... well, why don't we start back at the beginning? And I was like, no, I know what I need to do. I'm in the wrong place. I think Flight Simulator is probably a really great way to learn concepts and say, okay, I'm going to plan this flight, and I can pause it, and I can go back without having, like right now, we go fly an approach. If I want to go fly it again, I got to go fly 20 miles to go re-intercept the initial approach fix. Well, yes. Flight Sim, you just go back. So I think these are probably really good tools for IFR. I don't necessarily recommend the lessons that are built in because, like I said, they're not very forgiving, but I do get on Flight Simulator and I do have my little iPad over here and go, okay, I can pause this and I know what I'm supposed to be doing and it looks right. So yeah, I think it's a good tool, but I don't think it's going to substitute for actually flying an aircraft.
Well, I would agree with that. I'm old school. When I went through pilot training, we had a simulator that didn't move or anything, didn't have any visuals. It just had a bunch of needles and gauges and stuff that did stuff. So you had to try to make it work. And it was, talk about not knowing where you are or anything. It was challenging. So my initial experience with simulators was it was really good for training you where the switches are in the cockpit and how things worked and what to do in an emergency, what switches to throw, how to run all that stuff. And then when I went in the airlines, and you do a lot of simulator stuff. I mean, 4 hours in the simulator. It just, I rarely flew longer than an hour and a half anyway in the Air Force, and now I'm doing 4 hour simulators in the airlines. But the real value of that, and those move, they're Class D simulators, so they move. So the real value of that is you can learn in real time. But then, like you say, if you didn't like what you did, you can zip back and start all over again instead of having to refly everything. Yeah. So you can do a lot of training events in that amount of time, and to include emergencies that you just can't do in an airplane. So I think there's definitely a place for simulators, but I would think that a key here about simulators is that, as you mentioned, the built-in lessons, it's kind of iffy really. You should have somebody helping you and guiding you about what it is you're doing and how you're doing, instead of just you learning by yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, sorry, Sean. I didn't mean to diss you. So, that's cool. All right. So, have you done a arc approach yet, a DME arc approach?
I attempted one once, and this will get technical. I have a disagreement with how the book tells you to fly it. So we did one out in it's over by Sherman, Texas, at North Texas Regional Airport, I believe, and they have a D&E arc out there, and we were flying it, and my instructor was saying, "Oh, you do this twist 10, turn 10, twist 10, turn 10," and I'm going to go out there and try to fly it because I don't think you need to do the 10 degrees every time. It seems like you should just be able to stay 12 feet from this point, and if you go high, bring it in. If you go low, bring it out. I'm not so it's kind of like. Can I take a step out of this process? I don't know if this is just to keep you actively engaged or something, but so I've done it once. I didn't do very well, and it was doing it that method. I kept getting confused, like, why am I doing this? It doesn't make sense to me. And it was throwing me off. So I'm going to go try it my way. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, but I'm going to, if I can do it my way, I'll make sure I can do it both ways.
Okay. Do you have a bearing pointer in Cirrus?
I do.
Then just use that. Don't twist. Don't reset your CDI. Set your CDI to your final course, and then use.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and that's what I can't fly IFR unless I have a bearing pointer.
Okay.
I've talked about crutches. I've been using those for so long I can't really do it anymore because I can't figure it out. But just use the bearing pointer, and then that's the 10 degrees is the nod, So you let it drop 10, and then you turn 10 in. So you just keep moving this, and then what you're doing is you're flying a whole bunch of little straight lines. And if you have a GPS that draws that arc, basically that's what it does too. It just doesn't. It draws little waypoints that are shorter than the mileage you're flying in the 10-degree arc. But that's all it's doing is just flying a whole bunch of little straight segments that look like an arc put together.
Another thing is, I'm not doing this IFR very realistically. I'm doing it to prep for the check ride, meaning I need to be able to do this with no GPS, no autopilot, because the Cirrus will do all this stuff. I can plug it in there and it'll do it, take me right down to the 1,000-foot markers. But I don't use the autopilot. I'm not looking at the GPS. I'm just trying to fly these steam gauges because I know I'm going to be tested on the minimal amount of equipment. You can't use your 430s. You can't use the Avidyne. Do it with these steam gauges. So that's one of the things I'm making probably harder on myself than I need to, because again, I can just plug it all into the 430 and the plane will do it. But I'm trying to go as old school as possible, because whatever my next plane is that I own, I share the Cirrus with my father. Whenever he decides he's done flying, I can't foot the bill for it anymore. And my plane's not instrument rated. So most likely in my price range, whatever I buy next is not going to be as high tech as the Cirrus. So I'm prepping for a little bit more basic IFR life.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But what's going to happen when you do your check ride is you're going to have to use all the equipment.
Oh, I'm going to make sure that I know how to do it all.
Okay.
But I want to start right now. I'm swinging the bat with the weight on the end of it.
Yeah. And when I do IPCs and stuff, what I make, you got to do at least 3 approaches. Basically, oh, by the way, an IPC is it's basically another check ride. The actual description for instrument proficiency check is in the ACS, and it tells you what you have to do. So it's not like a flight review. A flight review is, well, you got to talk for an hour on the ground, and you go fly for an hour, and then it's really up to you and the instructor to figure out what's going to be on the flight review. An IPC is actually just another check ride. So you do 3 approaches minimum, and one of them is going to be precision, and the other 2 are going to be non-precision. And what I generally do is I let the student or the fellow we're doing the IPC for to do 1 approach in the autopilot. Everything else is hand flown.
Okay.
So that, and the other kicker is when you do the check ride, you also have to do it. You're gonna have to do like a VOR where you have to time.
Yeah, we did. I went out and did that last week, and that actually didn't bother me as much. But we went out and did the VFR, and we did the holds where we were timing. And again, I that's also not as foreign a concept to me, because every plane I've flown has had a VFR. A VOR, so I've always kind of played with those. Most of the RNAV stuff and these things are all very new to me. So the VOR stuff I've got a handle on.
Yeah, good. Par's saying his autopilot had a real trim runaway on his check ride. So the rest of his check ride hadn't flown. Yeah, disconnect didn't work. Off and on didn't work. Had to pull the circuit breaker. Yeah, that's actually what I do too. Is I want to know every single way we can turn the autopilot off. Because if it does something stupid, then you're in trouble. So I have seen in the past people get real dependent on the autopilot. So much so that they're not really paying attention to what's going on. And then I don't like that very much because if the autopilot fails, you're not ready to take over. I mean, you don't have the situational awareness. You're not tuned into what's straight and level, or are you making a turn or anything like that. So I'm kind of the opinion is when you're on autopilot, then you're just ready to kill it, and take over, because it's going to do something stupid, and I need to the little hairs stand up on the back of my neck. I'm in the weather, and I don't want to get vertigo and do a spiral into the ground. So
no.
On the good bad scale, that would be bad.
That would be about the worst of the worst, I think.
Yeah. But vertigo is an issue. Have you been able to do some real in the weather kind of stuff yet? Texas is hard to do.
No, I haven't. I've done things I have done. I know I'm very susceptible to it. Flying at night, it doesn't take much for me, and it's almost 100% of the time I'll be flying, and if I'm looking out the window for, I don't know, half a minute, I suddenly start to feel like I'm just going at a 45-degree angle, and it's or sometimes I'll feel like I'm banked and I'm not. And what happens is, once I feel that happen, I just look at the attitude indicator, and it just snaps my brain out of it. I guess it gives me some sort of a horizon where my brain says, okay, we're good. But if I start looking out there and I just see the lights, it gets me. And then I went to Oklahoma City, where they do the decompression chamber, and they have this thing they put you in, little simulator with like flight sim on it, and there's no windows, and it's spinning, and you spin, until the fluid, I guess, in your ears catches up, and then you can no longer detect that you're spinning, and then of course the guy's like, hey, there's a pencil on the floor, pick it up, and it just feels like you just fell off a mountain. It's horrible.
You tumble and you get ready to throw up.
Yeah, so I not quite as strong as that, but I get a very similar feeling at night. So I know that when I'm in the clouds for any length of time, I'm certain that I'm going to be someone who's real susceptible to that. But right now, my go-to is just, as soon as I feel it, look at the attitude indicator, and it goes away.
That's good. Yeah, well, I like when I'm flying instruments, like I said, the autopilot, I'm ready at any time to kick it off. But my world goes from out here to right here.
Okay.
Because I guess I have a congenital fear of losing control in the clouds. So I want to make sure everything's going good. And my primary reference is good. So you got to cross-check it with some, the control and performance instruments.
True.
To make sure that it's not going bad. So, let's see. Talking about having a safety pilot. So have you done much work during your training with safety pilots, or have you done mostly with the CFI, AA?
Just the CFI. I've safety piloted for other people. And prior to even really going this far down this path, and that's another thing where you safety pilot for someone, you're like, man, you got to do this like every 90 days or whatever. And I'm just watching them going like, this is so hard. Like, again, I'm going to do it, but there's just so much in my brain built up going, there's just no like major reward at the end of this other than, it should be a reward, is that I'm going to be far more proficient, but.
Well, yeah, don't build it up in your head that it's this huge thing that you just got to fight to get there, and you're going to be happy when you get there. Enjoy the ride,
I don't like flying in a plane and not being able to look out the window. It's terrifying. I'm like, I know you're looking for traffic, but are you really? I see this guy on my iPad 16 miles away. He could be right there in a minute. Like, I'm so just, and again, it's new is what it is. But it's like I put those foggles on and I'm like, how do I know you're on your A game right now? Just I have trust issues.
Sounds like trust but verify.
There you go.
Would it be better to equip my plane with autopilot before I start IFR training or after I'm done? Jason, I would think wait. Just spend the money on training, spend money on flying, and then worry about an autopilot later on. Because you're not used to it. You'd add another layer of complexity. And So
Yeah.
So you're thinking that when you do your instrument check, I think you mentioned to me the other day, you're thinking about upgrading from the Grumman, changing.
Yeah, I need to get. It's going to make me so sad. That is probably the prettiest plane I'll ever own, and I really, really enjoy the Grumman. But when I purchased it, I underestimated how quickly my son would grow. Between the ages of 10 and 13, it's not a linear scale. So the Grumman is fine weight-wise, but it's got a very, very narrow window of CG. And so the last time the four of us flew anywhere, we went to San Antonio 2 summers ago, and we were on the cusp. And so, even to be safe, my wife had a bag under her feet in the front seat. And I'm like, that's not necessarily safe. You got rudder pedals and stuff there. And, I was like, I didn't want to put any more stuff back. So we had a suitcase in between the 2 kids. I just thought, what, if we're having to do this, this probably isn't a good, family travel plane. And so we right now, if we go anywhere, the 4 of us, we do take the Cirrus. But I'm expecting that plane probably in the next 2 years to no longer be an option, just because Dad doesn't fly as much as he used to, and it's an expensive hobby toy to keep and maintain if you're not going to use it a lot. So I'm just anticipating. I've started looking at things like Comanches and 182s, things that are a little bit more comfortable for people and a little bit larger and faster than the Grumman.
Yeah, 182 it's hard to beat that airplane. You pack a lot of stuff into it, and it goes at a pretty decent pace. And,
yeah, I've flown a couple of them. I like them. The Grumman, I like the Grumman because they're a little bit unique, a little bit unusual. I like the canopy opening, and I think they're kind of like the Jeep of general aviation airplanes. So I'm gonna miss that. But it is such a fun little plane just for the little $100 hamburger runs and stuff. I love that airplane.
Yeah, well, I think you talk about having airplanes. I think you need 5. Every airplane's a compromise, so you need 5 of them to cover all.
I used to say that. I was like, you need a Cub so you can go low and slow. You need a seaplane. You need your Cirrus, and then but I did the same thing where I was like, my wife's like, what do you need? I was like, I'm going to need a bunch of planes. You need one for every possible mission.
That's right, because they're all a compromise. So. Yeah. Although that being said, I have 2 mini Bonanzas right now.
How many Bonanzas do you have?
2.
Okay, well that's.
I have one. No, I have 2 Bonanzas. I need to downsize the Bonanza.
Well, I love, and I can't. I'll thank you again. I can't thank you enough for taking me out at the ACCAs and letting us. I kicked myself a little bit for not being slightly more brave and doing split S's and loops and stuff, and because I've done that stuff before with years ago in a pits, and I had fun with it. I was just like. I'm not crazy about the G's, but in hindsight, I was like, man, I should have just done it. Because I was watching that video, and I was like, this is kind of not as exciting as it could have been. And then my friend Spencer Suderman called me out because he holds the world's record for the most inverted flat spins, 98, I believe. And so he's like, you should do real aerobatics. I'll make you throw up. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to throw up. And so now he's teaches at Patty Wagstaff School in Florida. And so I got a plane ticket, and I'm going to go out there one weekend, and he's going to try to make me throw up in her extra. So if we had just been more aggressive that day, Scott, he probably wouldn't have done that. But so now I'm going to go get the crud beat out of me. But I don't know. Maybe you and I can go fly between them.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to. The airplane, I'm actually doing some work on it right now, but it should be up and flying maybe next week. But yeah, let's go flying again. I'm happy to do that. We can do a split S. We do a loop. Loops are actually easier than aileron rolls. What I found is that people get more disoriented in the roll than they do in a loop. G is, you're worried about the G, but it's when you're looking outside, your world kind of unhinges, and you feel like I'm normal. I'm sitting here in 1G, but the whole world's tilting around, and people have trouble with that. A little bit of different philosophy. I used to do incentive rides when I was in the Air Force, giving people rides in the fighters, and it's just I never wanted to make somebody sick. That was never my objective. But it's a different world. This is an airplane that has a roll rate of 500 degrees per second. You do turns at 5Gs because that's what you do. That's how you got to fly a fighter. So you get used to that, and I will admit that the majority of people that I've given rides to in the fighter got sick. Not because I made them,
Really?
but it's just a different world. Yeah, it's like I had one fella when out at the end of the runway, we get ready to take the runway, and I'm telling him, okay, this is what's going to happen. I release brakes, and we're going to burner, and the burner kicks in. He goes, oh no, stop, stop, stop! I said, it's too late, man. You bought this ride.
That would be cool. I've never been in a jet like that. That would be a lot of fun. I think it would be fun. Yeah. I think I could do it. You know, it's the thing I'm not crazy about G's. In my mind, I hate the idea of going vertical. In the pits, we did a couple of these corkscrew things and ones like that. And they were not as bad as I thought they were going to be. I don't like not being able to see the ground. But I don't know. I think if you've got that much thrust behind you, it's probably okay. Because like in my plane, when I pitched up, because I'm doing some slow flight, I'm about to stall, you get that weird sort of irrational, like you feel like you're going to tumble off the plane somehow, which doesn't happen. I feel like if I had all that thrust pushing me like a rocket, I'd probably be like, I'm good. But I think that would be a ton of fun.
It was a hoot. When I retired, people would ask me if I missed the Air Force. And I don't miss the Air Force a minute, but I miss the jet every day. And I still
Really?
do. Oh yeah, I still do. See this one right here. What an incredible.
You flew F-15s and F-4 Phantoms, right?
Yeah. Once upon a time.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was a hoot. All right, so I forgot to hack a clock about when we were started talking. But does anybody else have any more questions? Jack Brain says airplanes are herd animals, 2 minimum. I can dig that. 2 by 2. Yeah.
So I'll ask you a question. Is this you got a 36 and the one that we wrote in? The one we wrote in, what was it? I know it was aerobatic, but it was just a regular old 35 or
it's an F-33C.
Okay.
It's an aerobatic Bonanza. They started off, well, not to belabor it, but they had the V-tail. That's the 35 series, and they made a cheaper version of the V-tail with a straight tail and a smaller engine. They call that the Debonair. And then eventually that grew, and they made an aerobatic version of that. I think they made, actually I'm not really sure, but I think they made like 26 of those. And E-33Cs is what they called them. And then later on they made the F-33A, which was basically the same airplane as the V-35. I think when it came out like in early 70s, that would have been like V-35A maybe. And so it was the equivalent of the Bonanza, just the same as the Bonanza, instead of a V-tail, it had a straight tail. And the C model, the aerobatic version, is actually, externally it's exactly the same. Internally is where it's different. The spar on it is twice the size of a regular 36 or 35 series spar. And that's massive. I mean, the spar is pretty big on a 35 or 36, but on a 33C, it's huge. It's a huge spar. And they made other changes, their reinforcements and stuff like that. The easiest way you can tell an aerobatic Bonanza is it's got the same vortex generator on the leading edge of the wing as the A36, late model A36s have.
Okay.
So
I'll say, is the I was going to ask, what's your favorite plane? I'm guessing it's the one you own now, the 33.
I mean, the A36 is an incredible IFR platform. It is easy to hand fly that airplane in weather, rough weather. Just the CG range of it, you can put all kinds of crap in it. The big doors. It is an awesome cross-country airplane, but it pays the price in handling because it's basically a longer-bodied Bonanza, and that changes the CG and everything. So it is an incredible airplane at what it does, which is good cross-country, good hand-flying platform. And then I got the F-33C, and oh man, it's just like, I'm an old man, so I don't want to pull 10 Gs anymore or anything, but 4 is good enough, and being able to go upside down is a lot of fun. And it just handles radically different. it's a lot of fun. So the 836 is for sale, and the 33C is going to stay.
So what about family members? Is the inverted stuff only when Scott's alone on his plane, or do you go across country with the family and throw in a couple of rolls?
Well, the FAA requires me to say, no, I don't do that. Because there are actually certain limits about it's not its gross weight for aerobatics is 2,800 pounds, and that's a lot less than the regular passenger weight. You can only carry 2 people when you do aerobatics, and there's a certain amount of gas. Yeah, a certain amount of gas you can put in it. So there are limitations on the airplane to be aerobatic, but it's super easy to do. So yeah.
So when we flew, I had to wear a parachute.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since I saw this question. What is it that says, okay, if you're going to be doing this or this, you have to wear a parachute? It's something like, it's 30 degrees, right? It's not anything extreme.
It is actually a little bit more than that. The regulations are kind of weird, really. It's not one regulation that says what you have to do or describes it, but there's kind of concatenation of a couple of different regs and what you're doing. So in other words, if we were going up to do training and do spins, legally, we don't have to wear a parachute. We're doing spins. Me personally, I think that's not necessarily a good idea, because if cable breaks or something like that during a spin, well, I'm not going to be able to fly the airplane. I want to get out of it instead of riding it to the ground. So my nickel is we wear a parachute. But fundamentally what it is it's more than 60 degrees of bank and about, say, 30 to 45 degrees of pitch. Those kind of things. It's not normal flight. And and if I'm by myself, like you see some air show guys, there's a guy doing air shows in the F-33C. He doesn't wear a parachute. If you're by yourself, you don't have to wear a parachute.
Did not know that.
Yeah, if you got 2 people in the airplane, now you got to wear a parachute.
Both of you, or just the passenger?
Both of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So chutes are being.
It was a lot of.
Yeah. Hopefully the chutes will be packed. I got to go to Denton next week to take the chutes to get packed. So,
how often do you have to do that?
180 days. Every 180 days.
Have you ever? Well, you're in the military. You probably jumped out of planes plenty of times.
No, airplanes are not for jumping out of. When we did pilot training, what you do is you learn how to do this thing called the PLF, the parachute landing fall, so you don't break your legs or anything when you hit the ground. Because in the military, you jump with a C9 canopy, which is a round canopy, and it's got a pretty good descent rate. I don't remember exactly what it is, but you end up going about 8 knots forward velocity. So you're going to hit the ground pretty quick, pretty hard. So you do this PLF, which is basically feet and knees together, toes slightly bent, and the knees slightly bent. So when you hit, you kind of flop over on your, on your calves and your butt, and flop over, and that absorbs all the energy, or most of it. And then you collapse the chute and you get out of the chute. So we did PLFs and we practiced all that stuff, and then they took us on this. They had this souped-up car with a 200-foot rope on it. You're going to love this. This would be good for you. With a 200-foot rope. And all your buddies are holding the canopy up, right? So then they say, okay, you ready? And then the car starts going, and you're running real fast, while this rope stretches and the canopy inflates, and then it drags you up in the air. So you end up trying to run at 30 miles an hour, and it doesn't work. But then you're airborne. And you go up.
Behind the car?
Yeah, behind a car on hard ground, and instead of an ocean or anything like that. So it drags you up to about 150 feet or something like that. And then they have these things they call banana clips, these big metal things that hit you in the face if you're not careful. And you hit those things, and that releases you from the rope. And now you're in the parachute, that last end game. And now it's the graduation. Can I do the PLF and not break my leg? So that's the extent of my my training on jumping out of airplanes. I slept in a Holiday Inn Express.
Of course, citing a regulation here that says the most important person sits by the door.
That's right. And if you noticed when we flew, I was by the door.
I'll fly by the door, Brian, in case it comes open. I can keep it closed for you. Sure.
Sure. Yeah, that's it. That's the story. That's the ticket.
You don't need a parachute, bro.
Hey, SkyTime, working on your PPL. Good on you. We need more pilots.
Yeah, Ardmore, Oklahoma. It's a good area to practice in.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's the parachuting thing. I had a friend who I've known a lot of people that jumped out of airplanes or ejected from airplanes. I've fortunately never had to do that. That's knock on wood. You're familiar with that?
Yeah.
But one of my friends, I'll tell this quick story. I was on the range at Dare County in North Carolina, and he left the range, and I was on Navy Dare. He was actually stealing my range time, and I was pretty mad about that.
Okay.
So the ranger calls me up and says, "Hey, so-and-so flights just left. You want your range time?" And I said, "Yeah." So I jumped on the range, and I'm doing my thing, getting ready to drop a bomb, and he says, "Hey," the ranger, the guy on the ground, calls me up and he says, "Hey, you know that flight that just left? One of them ejected, put the airplane in the river. You know, it's like 5 miles away or something like that." So I went and I had a student in the other airplane. The way we did that is I was the lead, and I had a student wizzo in my back seat, and the other airplane had a student pilot in the front seat, and then an instructor wizzo in the back seat. I sent them home, go back to Seymour Johnson. That's where we're flying out of right now. And then I found the jet where it was, and then I found the pilot. He was in a big field, and I couldn't find the wizzo. The wizzo ejects first, and so then it's fractions of a second. It's not much difference, but he ejects first, okay. And then the pilot ended up in a field where they had cut trees. Otherwise, it's in a big swampy area, and if you've been to North Carolina, they got serious trees. You know, a lot of them are 100 to 200 feet tall. So I couldn't find the wizzo, and I'm circling around looking for him. Just doing what we call SARCAP, so you know, search and rescue. So we train for this. It's one of those things you're looking for. It's the first time I've ever done it for real. And so I'm circling around looking for him, and I'm trying to talk to him on the radio, and no contact. I can't find out where he is. And then I notice there's this one tree that happens to be sticking out a little bit higher than the others, and there's a orange and white on top of it. So what he'd done was he landed, and that tree caught his chute, and he was in the top of it. Yeah, he's dangling while I'm circling around, and I finally found him. And then now that I found him, I'm zeroing in trying to get him on the radio, and he let him. We had these things because back in the Vietnam days and in North Carolina, the trees are so tall. They have this thing called a PLD. And in the Air Force, in the military, if you don't abbreviate, you're nothing. If you don't abbreviate, you're nothing. Everything's an abbreviation. So PLD is a personal lowering device. What it is, it's a I forget what they call it. You know, where you can let yourself down by rope. Rappel. It's a rappelling device.
Rappel.
Yeah, so you can rappel yourself down from a big tall tree like this. So he did that, and he let himself down on this rappelling device to the bottom, and then he gets on the radio and calls me, and it was a relief really to hear his voice, and he goes, "I have no idea where I am," because it's dense trees. It's a dense forest, and if he goes in 3 different directions, he's going to hit that river, and sometimes there are alligators in that river. Or maybe they're crocodiles. I don't know, but they're big and they have big teeth, and so any of those directions are bad. I said, drag your compass out, and I gave him a bearing to that field, and then I kind of every now and again I'd fly over and go, keep going this direction, and he got to the field, and we got a helicopter in and got him out. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, so because of what you just said, I have 2 questions, and they're probably silly. So obviously you flew in the military, and you talked about actually dropping bombs. So of course you have fired guns from planes. You've dropped bombs from planes. There's a question I want to ask because I lucked out and got to make this weird little video where I some F-18s were flying next to me while I was flying my Grumman. And these guys blasted by me, and I remember not being able to hear a thing. It was so disappointing to see this F-18 just right off the side and go, I should be able to hear this. And so I'm wondering, when you're in your F-15 at the bombing range and you go to start shooting a machine gun, do you hear any sound from that, or is it's so loud in there you don't even know it?
Well, yes and no. It is loud, and I always wear earplugs. I'd take the little foamies and I'd cut a third of them off and wear the earplug, because actually in the F4 days I didn't do that and I lost hearing in my left ear. So I was always jealous of my hearing. But no, it's like the speed of sound. It's behind you. You know, you don't hear it. And the gun, you feel the vibrations, but you don't hear it. An interesting thing is I did an additional duty called a air liaison officer. That's the guy who calls in the airstrikes, and that's actually what I did during the first Gulf War. I didn't get to fly; I was an ALO. And when they shoot the gun, so here we are. I'm running an airplane on a target, and he's like right there. And then what you hear is the supersonic sound of the bullets going by, crack, 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 and then you hear the gun.
Oh, okay.
And that's really weird. So that's outside the airplane. Inside the airplane, you don't hear anything. And when you go through the mine, you just see it on the needle, and that's it.
I would think you would I would want the satisfaction of as I'm shooting. So the other question I have is my favorite really bad, I don't know if it's really bad, aviation movies from the 80s called Iron Eagle. And there's a scene, do you know this movie?
Yeah.
It's I love it. Doug Masters is my hero. So he goes in there to get his dad. And you know exactly what scene I'm going to ask you about. He's got the plane on the ground, and he wants to fire that Sidewinder missile while the plane's not in the air. And of course, it works. What would happen? Well, for verse 1, would the plane even allow you to fire a missile on the ground? Like, it's got to have something to keep that from happening, right? Yeah,
usually there's weight-on-wheel switches that inhibit any of that stuff. But it has been known to happen by accident, where it falls off and lights up. The trouble with doing that is, even if you could fire it, it's got thrust behind it, so it's basically gonna, when the rocket goes off, it's like a bottle rocket. Who knows where it's gonna go? It's not gonna guide. So even if you tried to shoot it at something, it's not gonna guide. You need a finite amount of time to get the seeker. It's got to be cooled. In other words, infrared missiles have to have some method to cool them, so the infrared sensor can see what you're looking at, and then you have to lock that sensor on, and the missile says I see it, and then you release it, and it starts to track it. Then you got a good track, then you can fire it. So it's actually quite you learn how to do it very quickly, but it's a finite amount of time to get a good track, good lock, unlock it, make sure it's tracking, and then fire it. So
in the movie they did in the movie they fired it through a 20-foot wall of flame too. So I don't know. But anyway, this absurd stuff. I imagine when I'm a kid watching the movie, I'm like, this is awesome. But I'm sure you watch Top Gun and stuff and just roll your eyes through half of it.
Well, yeah, that's true. Actually, I was reading somewhere I was reading it recently. They were talking about the new Top Gun, but the old Top Gun, here's the 79 mistakes they made in Top Gun. Geez, I think I came up with like 200. But but the thing is it's entertainment. It's not real life. So I honestly think the thing about movies is you have to have that willing suspension of disbelief. Because
for sure,
real life, if you make a movie, it's kind of boring. So you got to have the drama. It's like
I'm going to work on getting a shirt made that says "willing suspension of disbelief" for my channel.
That would be good for just plain silly. Yeah.
Yeah. Monty says, "How many years did you fly the F-15?"
What is it? About almost, I think 6 or 7, something like that. That's air math. I don't do air math anymore.
Air math. That's really cool.
Yeah. Brian, I have 2 questions, and they are probably silly.
I'm all about a silly question.
This is from Brazil. Yeah, we were way serious in this video so far, so we actually have to inject.
For me,
we have to inject a little satire.
Yeah, I always got my props just in case someone needs to call me on the phone.
Oh, this is getting boring. Save me.
No, I'm going to teach you how I calculate the wind correction angle on this E6B. All right, Echo Party, what are your 2 questions?
What are your 2 questions? Hey, can you actually use that E6B?
No, I could. So when I went to take the instrument test a few months back, there was one question that I kept coming up against on my practice test where they wanted to know wind correction angle. So I learned how to do that. When I did my private, I knew how to use it pretty good, and it never came up. So, which is, I guess, is fine. But I got to where I could calculate a wind correction angle. But now this is nothing but a prop for me. Could you?
Maybe. I don't know. We had to do it. Actually, we had to do fix-to-fixes with that. You know, there was a technique where you could draw it out here, and then you change this, and you do that, and move it over, and that could figure out how to do a fix-to-fix. And you'd have to, that was one of those things you'd have to do. That was in a galaxy far, far away, though. So,
Will I be wearing sunglasses when I fly with Spencer? I don't know. He tells me I'm going to have a bunch of Ziploc bags in front of me. That's the only thing I've been told at this point. But I don't get motion sickness, so I'm not overly worried about that.
well, you know, I flew with Martin Pauly as well up in the ACCAs, and we did aileron rolls and a split S, and he did fine. And then I thought, well, he did so good that okay, we'll do some deep stalls. So he did some deep stalls, and then that didn't work out very well.
Yeah, he told me.
He told you he didn't like that. So I heard he just got he passed his CF5 check ride. So good on you, Martin.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Once I get the instrument rating, I'll probably end up getting more ratings just because, like, okay, I've done what I understand or believe to be the hardest one, and so I would like to get a CFI at some point because I think it'd be fun to teach people. Echo Party.
Oh, I think Echo Party's saying that you had 2 questions in there.
Oh, I did. I had the question about could you hear the machine gun when you're inside the plane, and then could a plane really fire a missile on the ground? So, no, those were the 2 questions. But I can probably watch Iron Eagle and come up with 100 questions for you. I've seen that from the GA side of it. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can tell it's one of those movies where to them a stall is the engine dying, not the plane losing lift, because they keep talking about stalling and losing your engine. Yeah. It's funny to watch movies now and go, yeah, they didn't research that very much.
Well, you know, it's movies. So maybe what we should do is a Mystery Science 3000. Mystery Science Theater 3000. Watch the movie, and we can just throw spears at it.
I love that show, the Mystery Science Theater. That predates Netflix. It was Comedy Central. We would just, I mean, if that thing was on, we were just watching it because that's all we did anyway. Me and my roommates in college just watch movies and just pick on them. So
yeah, I liked it. I couldn't decide whether I liked the robots better or the guy.
There's a gumball machine, and then one I forget what the red one was, but yeah, that was fun. Let's see. Oh, here's someone I hired Ben to detail our 172, and he did an awesome job. Give him a shout out. Yeah, there's this guy. Are you familiar with this kid?
Yeah, I think
that's cleaning planes.
You mentioned him, yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's something else, man. I wish I had his work ethic. Well, even now, but definitely at 17, I didn't have it. Was he at the ACCA's cleaning airplanes? Because there was a guy doing that there. He was. So he was looking for a ride, and I had someone that was going to go with me, so I didn't have space. So Dan Milliken from the Taking Off YouTube channel said, you can ride with me if you can run cameras. And he said, I don't know how. Dan said, you'll learn. So he worked, and in between running cameras for Dan, he was out polishing airplanes, and by the end of the first day, he was sunburned, redder than I think I've ever seen a human in my life. And I was like, dude, I will go buy you some sunscreen. Next day, he's out there under planes, but he made some money out there. Good. He was very. That's awesome. Good for him. Yeah. We'll be working for him one day. maybe he's in the new Elon Musk going to Mars. Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, I always think, like, if I was more like that, where would I be now? But it's fine. I'm happy. Yeah.
You make your choices and you end up where you are. Just enjoy what you're doing while you're doing it.
Yeah, for real. So, what's next on your channel?
I don't know. I'm actually. I think this might be my thing for this week because I'm real stressed out right now. I'm selling my Skywagon and my A36, so I got a lot on my plate.
Yeah, that's a lot of that. Whew. No, I will say if anyone's a pilot and wants to buy a plane, I don't know how the process has been for you. I gave up wanting to buy a plane, but before I found my Grumman, because it's such a, you travel across country somewhere and it's not what it was presented to be, or there's things wrong with it that they didn't tell you about, even though you asked them the question. I went to look at a Piper, a Cherokee 180 in Arizona. And I got out there and they said, I said, well, let's go take it for a flight. She said, well, you can fly it when you buy it. And I go, that's not how that works. She goes, oh, no. She's like, it's fine. If you get up there and you decide you don't like it, we'll buy it back from you. And I was like, what world do you live in that this is a thing? Wouldn't let me fly the plane. And she was even a CFI. Like, there's no reason. And I went out to North Carolina to go look at a Grumman before I bought my Traveler. And I asked him, my mechanic said, ask all these questions. And I did, and the answers were perfect. And then I get back out there and we're going to lunch. And I'm like, well, let's review it. I just want to make sure. And then the answers started changing. And then we go look at the airplane. And he's like, oh, be careful around the cowl. There's some wet paint on it. I'm like, why would there be wet paint on the cowl? And like, started looking at a lot of things that looked like they might be Bondo and stuff. And I thought, man, I'm done looking for planes. And then someone knew I was looking for Grummans, said, hey, I saw this ad for this Traveler. And I said, I don't care. And he goes, well, I'm going to go look at it. He went and looked at it, and he came back, and he goes, you need to buy this plane. If you don't buy this plane, I'm going to buy this plane. So I said, okay. So I found a mechanic and had him go look at it. The mechanic said, you need to buy this plane if you're serious about buying a plane. So I said, okay. Went out there, looked at it, couldn't fly it because it was 200-foot ceilings, but I said, you know what? I've flown a couple of these. I enjoy how they fly. This one's beautiful. It looks pristine. So I went ahead and bought it, and the guy had his son fly it to me from Connecticut to Dallas, and it's just been a great plane. But the buying process, such a beating for me.
It is. Well, actually, that's on my list of things, videos to do, is to how to buy and then how to sell an airplane.
I can't imagine how to sell a plane, because I mean, you got to have people coming out of the woodwork who just want to look at it or go for a ride, or I mean, you probably get a lot of responses for the people who are serious.
Yeah,
I should say versus serious.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an experience. So yeah, it's actually on one of my video list. I've got a list of different videos that I want to do. I want to do some more in the proficiency series that I just started. But like I said, I'm a little verklempt right now.
So what? I'm sorry, I'm not interviewing you. What made you decide to start a YouTube channel?
Well, I was actually on a TV show called Wings to Adventure back in the 2004, 5, 6 time frame. And a friend of mine, a guy named Tom Gresham, started it. And we'd been friends a long time. And I was writing for flying magazines at the time. So I was doing a lot of air-to-air stuff, and I was talking to people. And so I knew a fair amount of people in the business. So I got involved doing that, and I really enjoyed that. I was more of I was the producer. I put all the planes together. Then I did all the air-to-air photography, the videography, flying the airplanes and stuff like that. So we go around the country. I had my V-35B at the time. It was great, and I really enjoyed it. I tried a couple of things on air, and man, it's like the first time you start talking to a camera, it's like having a stick up your butt. So
it's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible, man. They laughed at me. So I didn't do that much on air stuff, but I had a lot of fun doing it, and
it's fun.
That's why I actually started the FlyWire, because I really enjoyed doing that and doing the video thing and talking to people and exploring aviation and stuff. So that's why I started it. And what made me get off the dime to actually do something was I had rotator cuff surgery, so I was kind of laid up for a couple of months not doing anything. So some of my early videos, you can see me there with my
I've had that surgery. It's a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. It's bad.
So Waukesha Pilot says, does the guy that I bought my plane from watch my channel? I know he's aware of it. because he said he was out at his field once, and someone said, I think his name was Bill. Said, "Hey, Bill, your plane's on some YouTube channel or whatever." So the guy emailed me, and it was like the first Grumman video I made, which is kind of a funny one. And so I know he's aware of it, but I don't. We email about once a year. Just I'll ask him a question about the plane or something, but I don't think he's an avid aviation YouTube guy.
Yeah,
I know he knows.
So he didn't see it when you raced Christie in the Long Warrior.
Not that I know of. He left. He and his son. They had the Grumman, and they sold the Grumman to build an RV, and I don't remember which model it is. So that was their project. He sent me, maybe it's about a year ago. I got a photo of him and his son. They finally got the thing airborne, and it's got a picture of real pretty. I think it's yellow and white, and so they finished their project. So every once in a while, first time I took it to Oshkosh, I sent them. I said, "I'm taking good care of your plane." I took her to Oshkosh. She seemed to enjoy it. You know?
Did you camp or did you stay in the dorms or hotel or what?
I've camped twice and I stayed in a hotel last time. I won't do a hotel again. For those of you watching, if you want to go to Oshkosh, when you see that a hotel is $1,200 a night, you'll think that's probably a nice hotel. But in Oshkosh, when they're $1,200 a night, that means nothing. You're paying for a place to sleep, and so. But you have no frame of reference when you're looking at the prices of like this is a good place or a bad place. So it was extremely expensive to stay in a hotel, and it was not. We actually ended up leaving early. It was not pleasant. But for me, camping in the North 40 is a blast because my favorite thing at Oshkosh is to just walk around and talk to people. I ended up talking to the Velocity guys. I'm fascinated by those planes now. I ended up I saw the Mooney guys having a pizza and beer party. I just walked over and introduced myself, and I met some really great people who are like my friends now. I just love walking through the field and just like, hey, tell me about your plane. The air show's neat, but if you've kind of seen it once, it's kind of the same thing every day. Just the sea of airplanes and people who love to talk about their planes, I could do that for 2 weeks. So out there in the field is where I prefer to be.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've done it all. I've done stayed in the dorms. I've camped, and actually the best really is renting a house. If you can have a couple of people together, because houses are usually pretty expensive. But for years we had a house over on the east side underneath the 26 approach. It was like 2 blocks from the lake. And have you ever heard of Artie and Ed's?
I have not.
You've been to Oshkosh and you don't know Artie and Ed's? It's a 50s restaurant. You pull up in the parking lot and these girls come out on roller skates with short skirts on, take your orders, and there's black cows or orange cows, hamburgers or whatever you want. It's the 50s, and it's Artie and Ed's. It is a fantastic place, and it was like the house we used to have for years was like less than a block from Artie and Ed's. So you gain 20 pounds from having black cows. So.
I go back and forth between Friar Tuck's and the SOS tent. That's kind of my wear a trench in the grass.
All right, so next year at Oshkosh, I'm going to take you to Artie and Ed's, and we can do a video. We can do a video on that and see what you think.
I would love to. I'm going to go next. I was going to go this year. I was going to go to Sun Fun for the first time, but obviously all that stuff was canceled. That ACCA thing. I'm going to that every year too. That was awesome. That was so cool.
That was a lot of fun, and I'm hoping they don't try to hook it up with Oshkosh because.
I know when the next date is.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's the weekend before.
Weekend before.
It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday before Oshkosh. So this next Sunday is the start of Oshkosh.
Oh, I see.
So it's going to be for me, for a work perspective, it just means I'm taking one more day off of work, so that's nice. But it's cramming a lot in, but it's all fun stuff, But yeah, they're piggybacking it right onto the front end of Osh.
So you can do it on the way.
So next year I talked to I don't know what I can say, but I've got emails. So he's trying to make it bigger next year. And he said they're going to include, like he was talking about how he felt bad this year because smaller channels weren't recognized. So they want to recognize smaller channels and podcasts and some stuff like that. I'm of the mindset I was just happy to be invited. Like I don't need any recognition, but he's like, no, you guys work hard. And he goes, just because your channel has less subscribers doesn't mean you're not working as hard as the 300,000 sub guy or whatever. So they're really trying to, help grow the small channels and then I guess promote them as well. So he said he has, and then shuttles back and forth he's going to have to the hotels and stuff because I guess transportation was tough for people.
Yeah, that was one nickel I had for him was you got to have timed shuttles, not on call, because all it does is add time to everything. So, and it's not
he's doing that.
Yeah,
I couldn't get an Uber out there. Like we were sitting in our hotel for hours trying to get an Uber, and finally someone at the airport had a car and he came and picked us up. So the shuttle would be great.
Yeah. So on the way to Oshkosh.
Hopefully next year the fly-ins happen because I've definitely missed it this year, and I can't wait to. I just love Oshkosh so much.
Yeah, it's a hoot. Yeah. All right, so Artie Neds next year.
Artie Neds.
How does 310 pilot's plane look up close in person? It's from Waukesha Pilot. Yeah, it is pretty. He did all the Avidyne upgrade stuff to it, so the avionics are pretty fancy too. Yeah,
he's done a lot to that plane, and he takes really, really good care of it. I got to fly in it before he painted it, and then to see it afterwards. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you could smell the paint. Like it was like a brand new looking plane. I mean, it was showroom. It was beautiful.
So we go fly in the F-33C again. Maybe I can convince you how you really need a Bonanza. I've
looked at the F-33s. That's probably, so the thing, here's the deal. Every plane has different creature comforts and these kind of things. There's, I don't like I was looking at Comanches. I don't like that trim thing. The thing about the Bonanza, I have to get used to, everything's located in different places than they are in most planes. Like the trim wheel is very hard for me to reach and some stuff like that. So there's some things like that. I want the one that's got the two yokes versus the one with the throw over yoke. And I don't know if there's certain models that have that.
You can buy them. You can have a single throwover if you want, or you can have the dual yoke. Organization called Signet sells new ones, and I'd rather get a new one from Signet than an old used one that's kind of beat up.
Oh, okay.
They're actually made out of magnesium. So, long story. It's a Bonanza story. I can save that for later.
Okay.
But dual yoke. Yeah, dual yoke's the way to go.
Yeah. But that's one of the planes, the F-33. If I could find one with dual yokes, I would like to. That plane, I don't know much about Comanches. I flew in one last summer, and I remember thinking that was heavy, roomy, big, all that kind of stuff. Those are probably two. I am so not a high wing guy, but if I got a 182, I know my family would enjoy the shade. But so those are probably the three things I'm looking into. I just want a bus that I can throw bags and people in and do 3 hours, 3 hour legs. So, but yeah, the F-33, I'm not crazy about the VTOLs, and I don't know if these F-30, and again, it's all, if you tell someone, hey, I'm going to go buy this plane, someone's going to tell you immediately what's wrong with it. So I was looking up the VTOLs, and someone was like, oh, you got to make sure this is reinforced and it doesn't have this on the elevator because these things come off in flight, which is obviously, it probably happened once. But so I was like, oh, I don't want a VTOL. And so that's why I started looking at the F-33s.
Well, Troy Trollan asked me if I've flown a Class Air 3. I have. It's a sporty little airplane. The V-35, the VTOL, is actually an AD that requires a cuff on the leading edge. So it's really easy to see if it's been done or not. But
okay.
It had a reputation as a doctor killer.
Yep.
And where that comes from is the airplane actually it handles really well. So you've flown the F-33C, you feel like, well, it's pretty amazing, compared to a Comanche, or you're flying a truck or a Cherokee 6 or something. So, because it does that, it handles so well, especially in roll, you have a slight roll instability. And what that means, that translates into it can develop a spiral. It can depart in a spiral and accelerate in the spiral. And because what it's trying to do is it's trying to attain trim speed. So it will increase bank angle and descent rate and airspeed, trying to find trim speed. And that if you're flying, you think about this flying in the clouds, your hand flying, and you lose your SA, you're reaching for a map or something like that, you fall off into a spiral, and all of a sudden you're going really fast, and you're in the clouds, you don't know where you're going. Then you pull. And the natural reaction, and this is one reason why I do upset prevention recovery training, is because a lot of people have that natural reaction, is to just pull when things are bad. And that's usually a bad thing, especially in the V-tail, because at yellow line, it's 160-ish knots, at yellow line, that tail has 9 G's of rudder of authority. So in other words, if you yank it, you can put 9 G's on the airplane. Well, it's only stressed for 3.8 or 4.4. So fail is usually 50% more. So 6.5 G's is the fail point. Now you can load it up with another 2.5 or 3 more G's, and that's why tails came off. So it's, it is one of those things. When I do bonanza checkouts, we spend a lot of time learning that particular thing, so it doesn't bite you later on.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But the V-tail is it's a fast airplane. It's faster than the A-36, and I think a little bit faster than the F-33 because it's got less drag.
Okay. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I've flown in one V-tail, and then I've flown in yours, and then I flew in Martin's A-36. That was again, my Grumman is a very light airplane and gets knocked around. The Bonanzas definitely feel a lot more solid. Mm-hmm. They're a lot sturdier aircraft. So my wife, we fly in the Grumman. It tends to be early mornings or evenings because my plane gets knocked around really, really good in the thermals and stuff. So, but I know the heavier aircraft don't have that as bad. Waukesha's being nice. Everybody like the video and subscribe if you're not subscribed.
That's right. Both I keep getting confused which direction is which.
On this side, right?
Just plain silly, yeah.
Wait. No, it's over here. Okay.
Subscribe.
Camera's in reverse on both.
I know, it's dyslexia. It's my taking hold. Subscribe to Just Plain Silly or to FlyWire. Both.
Well, and people who watch me, this will mess them up forever. Is my head is not symmetrical. I have one ear that sticks out further than the other one, and when I look at myself, it's on the wrong side. So you won't be able to not see that anymore.
We always think of Brian. He's kind of, if it's windy at all, he has trouble walking a straight line.
Why is he always crabbing into the wind? Slip.
Oh yeah, remember to hit the like button and also the bell for notifications, so you can hear the next time we go live stream. So that always helps.
All right, I just liked it.
Cool.
And I already clicked.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed. We've been yakking for a while, so.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully, people learned
awesome.
from. I thought your perspective about instrument training is really valuable for folks, especially the folks that are interested in doing it out there, and having that break. It is better to train. When you're in the groove and stay in the groove, than it is to try to jump back into the groove after a few years. It's like
I think so.
Trying to get your master's after 10 years, right?
I'm not doing that either. Well, thank you very much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I love doing these things because I don't ever get to interact with the audience or whatever, and then get to interact with someone. It's always me making something and then putting it up there and hoping. Oh. And here it's like, okay, people are engaged, people are talking, we're talking, whatever. So this is a lot of fun for me. So I really appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate you taking me flying and doing this. This is awesome. So I love the aviation community. It's the greatest group of people.
It is. It's awesome. I love flying. I'm never going to stop. So cool. All right. Well, thank y'all for hold on. So thanks for watching Echo Party. Thank you very much, Arthur. Appreciate it. Horse lessons. All right. Monty says, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And I'm going to go ahead and we'll bow out of the live stream. Thanks for watching. And we will see you next time on